was going to ask you who have been some of your favorite jiu-jitsu fighters, athletes. It can even be guys that fought in the early days, Valetudo, and all those. Some of the guys you looked up to, maybe coming up, and even now.
Well, I'll tell you, I guess my Mount Rushmore, the guys that I really look to that have inspired. I mean, number one is Rickson, and because Rickson was not just the champion of the family, but he almost had this mystical quality about him, very Zen-like, and almost a little bit scary too. The first few times I met him, as a matter of fact, one of my best friends that joined jiu-jitsu at the same time that I did, he was on the mat when I think it was Yoji Anjo who showed up to challenge
him. Yeah,
he was in the room when that happened. Just to summarize that story, this Japanese, martial arts champion showed up to challenge Rickson to a big, televised fight, and he showed up with photographers and cameramen, and Rickson was so offended, he said, "Okay, I'll give you the fight. We're going to do it right here, right now." And they videotaped it, and the winner got to keep the tape, and Rickson demolished him. And I heard the story firsthand from my buddy Tino, and it's probably so much better how I imagined it. And of course, he wrote it up in his book, Breathe. But just that quality, just know that there's this guy out there, and he lived and breathed jiu-jitsu and that lifestyle. So that was one of the first influences I had. And of course, John Jock, of course, was also another influence and what I felt I learned from him was just jiu-jitsu as a beautiful, artistic expression. His movement it was so different than what I had seen anyone else do, and that really inspired my style, because I don't really have an aggressive style. I like the flow, and I think that traces all the way back. As a matter of fact, my go-to sweep is what I learned from him, the butterfly sweep, and of course the guard work that I learned from him. Marcelo Garcia is another. As a matter of fact, my greatest jiu-jitsu moment, I think ADCC 2005, Long Beach Pyramid.
Oh yeah,
was when he took on Rico Rodriguez.
Yeah.
And Rico Rodriguez must have been about 230, 240 pounds, and Marcelo must have been about 170 pounds. And they're going at it, and he gets, and it's like watching Yoda and Count Dooku fight, because Marcelo was just hopping all over the place, frustrating the heck out of Rico. And he gets on his back, and then Rico just launches himself backward and basically slams Marcelo on the mat, and I think knocked him out for like a split second or two, because they had to break up the match. And then the fight continued, and Marcelo submitted him. And that arena was packed. I don't think anyone was seated. They were screaming. I was like, oh my God! It was a true David and Goliath thing, and I was there watching it live, just screaming my head off, just seeing this guy. And it was the first time I think I'd ever seen Marcelo, and I saw him go against, because he fought in his weight division, and then also in the absolute, where he fought, where he met Rico, and that was just an incredible moment. And then today, who I'm watching a lot is Craig Jones. Really enjoy him. And he's a lot of fun to watch, and I think he's a good ambassador. And he cracks me up. You can't really take him too seriously on the set, but I love watching the videos of him just rolling apart. Gym training, right? Not the competition.
He markets jiu-jitsu. He markets jiu-jitsu in a good way.
Yeah.
He gets people wanting to watch it.
Yeah.
Wanting to be a part of it.
Yeah. Probably would also throw Rafa Mendez in there. He's another guy that I just really, really loved. And so a little while ago, I was talking about the pandemic kind of being good for me, or at least for my jiu-jitsu game. Because I was training at a nearby gym, my house, and I was training at our 6:30 a.m. classes, and we had a black belt from AOJ, a fella named Elvis, and we were training, 2-3 times, a week in the morning. I want to say half the time it was just me and him. And
this is in the early morning?
This was in the early morning, and during the pandemic when attendance was a bit low. And half the time it was just him and I, and it really started to turn into one-on-one coaching, and he really rebuilt my game. And so I learned a lot of those things that I guess you would say the AOJ side is famous for doing. For example, his pressure passing, his side-to-side movement, De La Riva guards, those type of things that I never did before. As a matter of fact, I didn't have that much of a guard before then, but I think over maybe 2 years of that, I really rebuilt my game. So I owe him a lot of thanks for that. So
Nice.